Well, good day to you all, and welcome to another installation of New Covenant Community Connect Live. This is a part 2 interview, and the first part was conducted by Minister Leah Elijah Lyle. And I'm her stand-in for the day on part 2 with our guest for today, Sister Christina Ledesma Burns. Hello, Christina.
Hello.
I am Elder Chris Burns, and you notice same last name. I am familiar with her a bit. Christina is my wife, and our discussion today about ancestry and about DNA continues. So we'll pick up right where we left off with just a few questions that we have here, and hope you all enjoy the exchange. Now, first question for you, Christina, is what are some of the most surprising or unexpected discoveries you've made through your continued DNA ancestry research?
Well, on the first video, I mentioned being contacted by someone who took the DNA, and she sent emails out to everyone who matched up as a cousin. And she invited us to join her cousins group. What I discovered there was my siblings, they didn't show up as being related to her. Out of the group of family members that I have on there, which is cousins, children of my cousins, there is just myself and the granddaughter of another one of my cousins on my mom's side. We are the only two that showed up as being related to her. So that told me the DNA, it's not equal for each sibling. We can have more on one side than the other. So that was a surprise. I contacted her and said, well, what about this relative? What about this relative? And no, it's just me and one other.
As far as you know, is that still the case, or have others kind of ended up on there as time has gone by, or is that, would you consider?
As far as I know, that's still the case.
Right. Have you been able to uncover any details about your family's immigration or migration stories, particularly across borders or between countries?
Well, when you connect, I like I said, I've subscribed to the DNA Ancestry and more. It's called the World View, so we can get ancestry information through Mexico or different countries, but it also includes the border and immigration records. So I did find the immigration record for when my grandmother came over, my mom's mom and grandfather. And it will actually be information, and they'll have a screenshot of the immigration card. So it'll tell what age, where they cross the border at. There's some cards that also include pictures. I have not encountered the card with their picture on it, but you can also find immigration records on your search.
Okay. Well, there's I guess in the past, when I was a kid, there was this movie came out, Roots, and everybody got into trying to find out who they were, where they were from, and things like that. And over these decades, we find that when people are searching their roots, they'll go down one trail and it'll take them down another trail, where they'll look for one piece of information, and another type of information that maybe they hadn't even considered will pop up. And have you encountered that?
Just searching the records in Mexico, I would say maybe I found what I thought was a match. It would lead me to baptismal certificate. And then on there, though, I have to research. It will list the grandparents if they're there. So sometimes that did lead me down another path. Sometimes the names, maybe the names match, but when I researched for a grandparent, that wasn't correct. So yeah, I did find that in my search.
What about missing pieces of the puzzle? Well, we tend to grow up hearing about mother or father or grandparents getting from point A to point B, and then the possibility of in the search you find out maybe the rest of the story, how they ended up getting here. You come across anything pertaining to that in your search with your parents, grandparents?
I've not been able to find anything for my father's parents. My mother's parents, the other thing that I've found is the census. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. Census also was pretty helpful. So it would show their location, the year, and then who was living in the household. So through the census, that also helped me even locate addresses.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How have you gone about preserving and sharing the family history and information you've gathered with younger generations, like the grandchildren?
Well, when I did the searches in my early stages, I took screenshots of the record. And it would be, it would show whether it's a baptismal, whether it was a birth record. And so it would include, the church name, part of Mexico. Again, if there was a grandparent there. So I took screenshots and I actually printed them out. So I have pictures. I just have to put them together. So I'll have pictures, got my dad's birth certificate. I've got his parents' marriage certificate. So I'm amassing quite a few things, and I just have to put them all together, in a package.
Before you delved into this with DNA, Ancestry.com, 23andMe, all these different companies, before that, or even before they really existed to the public, did you have a great interest in your ancestors?
The one that I really had more of an interest was my father's side, because we still had cousins in Mexico that we were able to connect with. But once I started this search, I decided I really want to find out about my mom's side, because it was just my grandparents. If they had siblings, there was no mention. And then I remembered that an uncle traveled to California to visit cousins. And so then that sparked an interest, because I'm wondering, has anyone taken it from that side? And are there any pictures when my uncle made the visits over there? I've yet to find that information or connect with anybody. I have matches from California, and I've reached out, sent emails, but not really gotten any responses.
Okay, so what has been the extent of your research on your mother's side?
I've been able to, because once I started the search, I discovered there was Facebook pages for the different towns in Mexico. So I located the town for both of my grandparents on my mom's side where they were born. And so you can actually go in there. People are very helpful if you list your information and ask for assistance. People will reach out and help you. I pay attention to other people will post on that page that they're looking for family members, and they'll list some of their information. So that's where I'm trying to get more information on my mom's side.
Yeah, is in this journey of yours, mm-hmm. has it morphed? Has it changed? Has it broadened? Has it narrowed?
Yeah, it has broadened, just because of the fact I know where they were born, but what about the generations before? And through this cousin that I received that email in the cousins group, the part of Mexico that her ancestors are from, I hadn't seen that on either side, but DNA Ancestry, they keep improving. And so now I do see, and I believe it's my dad's side, that the town where her parents are from, her ancestors, that is showing up now. I don't recall it showing up before, but it's there. So now I want to find out where that connection first started. Locate the ancestors.
Yeah, and for both sides or either side, what is that like? What is it like for you personally when you come upon another piece of information, another person, whether it's written or whether it's a record from a church in Mexico, or whether it's even if it's a picture? What is that like for you personally?
Personally, it makes me excited because I'm looking at it, and if they have a picture, I'm looking at the features and can I see the resemblance? And we do have a strong resemblance with the ancestors, so it just excites me more, and then I want to find out.
All right. Well, of all of the different pieces of information, which one do you think has it over this period? How long has this specific type of search been going on with you?
I believe it's been like 3, possibly 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you remember like the day or the period of time when you decide, okay, I'm going to go on it. I'm going to go into this. I'm going to go a little further. Do you remember that?
Yes, I did. And it was pretty addictive because I was up till like 3 a.m. researching, because then I might find a grandparent, but then it'll show children pop up. And it's kind of like it leads you, okay, I got to put this together to find out. So maybe I'm looking for the great grandparent. So then you look through the children's records and see if the grandparents' names pop up on there. So it just leads to more and more research.
Okay. Is that like finding a lost person?
Yes, it is. It is. It's interesting to find out the children, how many children are there in that family.
Now, among your descendants, I think on last interview you mentioned your sons didn't have a great deal of interest in proceeding in this, but you have a few grandchildren who are, and maybe you can tell me more about that or more about them, or even if there's other persons in the family who appear to have an increased interest since you've been doing this.
So yeah, my grandchildren, I've got a couple of granddaughters. They are interested. The other part that I've found out is one of my sons, his wife. I've seen my father's, looking through the records, he has godparents with that same last name. And so that intrigues me because I'm wondering if her ancestors were connected to my father's family somehow in that grandparent. And I'm trying to collect that for that son's children. I've let them know. And their grandfather is from Mexico, close to where my father was. And then the granddaughters that are older, they're interested just as my siblings are. They want to know the Native American connections, the tribes from Mexico, but haven't been able to pinpoint that yet.
Mm-hmm. I've come across different tests for African Americans or for other people in the African diaspora who want to find out, or the diaspora who want to find out more about what tribes they come from in Africa. And I haven't used one of these services, but there are services that are specifically for that. Do you know if there's any companies or any services that involve that, whether for North America, South America, or Central America, that delve into tribal DNA?
There is another one, and people have commented on the either the Mexican American Facebook group or the town from where my ancestors were from. When I've seen it mentioned, the people that have taken it, they say it really hasn't, it doesn't still give them a direct tribe, because they said there were so many, they moved around. They seem to think that they're lumped into a certain group depending on the town you're from, but it still doesn't give them a definite answer. So I yet have tried to take it. Yeah, I've got that on my radar, but I'm waiting to see or hear more conclusive information.
Okay, all right. What advice would you give to someone who is hesitant or unsure about taking the first step to explore their family and their family's ancestry through DNA testing?
Well, first of all, if the cost is hindering you, it does go on sale. Right now it's $39. That's the cheapest I've ever seen it. If there's a concern of privacy, you can make it private. So that's another thing. If you're interested in history, for myself, I've enjoyed it because there was relatives on my mother's side that we knew of, but not really connected to. And so for myself, I was able to connect with a cousin on that side who has also been helpful in helping me with the ancestry information that they have. So,
have you encountered any roadblocks or challenges in your research that you had to creatively overcome?
Yes, I have. And I'm still trying to figure it out. Because the DNA ancestry, it allows you to see other trees that are public. So through that, I've got a connection. The name it could be my grandfather or my uncle. And the uncle died unexpectedly. And we didn't know that, if he had any children. I don't know. But I reached out and said, do you have the right person? Because is this person connected to my grandfather? Or could my uncle have had a child that we didn't know about? The person responded, they had the right name. So that for me has been a roadblock. I haven't been able to connect because the person that is the connector, their tree is private, but they're related to someone whose information is public. So I can find that through that public tree, but to dig down into the actual person, I can't, because they have theirs as private. So
now,
yeah.
Excuse me. Now with DNA ancestry, using DNA as a tool, but it's not the only tool. This is the one we're talking about today. I've noticed, and maybe others have noticed, and you ever seen the show that Dr. Henry Louis Gates Jr. does with Finding Your Roots or Who Do You Think You Are? DNA is a tool, very recently developed tool, that's now connected to the other tools or some of the other tools that have been around, like census, property, who owned property, marriage certificate, all these different other things that people have used. Have you been in situations where you needed to put things together from here and there to figure what was what or who was who?
Yes, I have. And I guess last show I mentioned I had my dad's uncle, and I'm trying to remember if it was the uncle, their uncle's child. And putting them together, I noticed they had the same last name. And it was a puzzle to me. I thought there was something to it. And then a cousin in Mexico told me that they were actually first cousins. So that helped with that piece of information.
Yeah, I just thought about something. My last name is Burns, as part of your last name too, Burns. But in further back in the record, sometimes it appears as Burnes. There's an E in there. Have you come across records that had different spellings, or
Yes.
of first names or last names?
Yes, that I have. And I've inquired on the Facebook pages connected to their birthplace in Mexico. And people have even commented when they're looking up records and they're putting information out there to help other people. And they have said it's common that there's misspellings. The names are written a little different. And what they're saying is the person who recorded that record, that at that time, that was how they interpreted the spelling. So yes, I've also come across that were different. Even my grandfather, his first name, I've seen it spelled with the J, with the G, and the last name also not being spelled a little different.
All right. In current events or in recent years, have there been, well, you've mentioned kind of organizations or formats that relatives have put together through Facebook, and there's been types of relationships that have been formed through that. In this type of search, or using this type of search to confirm who someone is, has that affected you more closely? Cousins, siblings?
I would say it has as I get more into the search. It just makes me want to dig a little deeper.
Now I'm going to ask a specific question, of course, that I'm privy to. What was the route that was taken? Did the information of a maybe or a who or a could be come first, or the DNA come concerning Chad?
It was the DNA.
Did that start with DNA or it start with something else? Who started the search? Was it him or you, or he showed up on?
I started.
Right. He showed up as related to you, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. So
because you just went to his wedding, right?
Yes. Yes. Right. So it showed up a young man that was, and it DNA will say, could be your nephew, could be your, it does the different connections. And I think it had him like a cousin. But then when you look further, it'll say, or could be, and his grandmother was my sister. We have the same father, but different mothers. So it did say in there, half nephew or something to that effect. And so he had, made it public, and there was a picture. I did know that there was a son put up for adoption by a nephew. So when I looked at it, I could see the strong resemblance. I looked at the connection where it said, could be the grandson of your sibling. And so I was sure that this was the great nephew who was put up for adoption. And so I reached out and I sent him an email. And you can send emails, they can respond. They don't have to respond. And I just told him I was trying to figure out how we were related. And he responded with, he was put up for adoption, and he gave me all the details, which did match where he was raised, where he was born. And he told me that he was looking basically for, is there any health concerns he needed to be aware of? He didn't come out and say he wanted to know a birth parent. And so I just told, and he didn't know his nationality. And so I told him it looked like we were related on my father's side. And he came from Mexico. And I gave him details about the family. And then I said, I'm actually living in Florida now, but if you want to meet up on one of my visits or you would like to connect, let me know. So that was how I left it, because I didn't know to what extent he wanted to go further on that.
All right. Now, to whatever degree you want to share it, what did end up being the extent of how far this went?
Well, I shared the information with my siblings and I showed the picture. And then actually what happened is he was working in retail and it was within, a mile or two of my siblings and his birth father. And so my brother-in-law ended up having an interaction with him as a manager of retail where he worked. And my brother-in-law remembered the picture and just came out and asked him, was he adopted? And he said yes. And my brother-in-law said, well, I believe I know who your birth father is. Would you like to know? And so that was how it was. He made the connection with the family, and he was more than happy to know the information that my brother-in-law had to share. So
right now, we both know our brother-in-law, and that
yes.
was a bold move on his part.
Yes.
So he was comfortable with being himself and how he did it. And
yes.
Would you advise that for anyone, everyone, or just don't do what you're not comfortable doing?
Well, I just say, for me, I was waiting for him to make contact. My brother-in-law, he had a reason. He right. didn't get to know his birth father. And so that was what he told my great nephew, that because he didn't know his birth father and wished he could have known him. Right. He felt if he wanted to know his birth father, he was willing to share it. So I guess personality. I was trying to feel my great nephew out.
Right.
And it all came out good. So yeah. Just, people's different beliefs or what they feel.
Right. Now looking ahead, what are your future goals or plans in terms of expanding your family tree and connecting and connections through DNA ancestry process?
Well, I mentioned briefly in the first interview that there's something called Family Search, and that is free. That's through the Mormon Church. They actually have a library, Family Search Library. It's in Utah. And my goal is to actually go to that library. It's open to everybody, just like the records online are free. And I'm told, I've seen where people have posted that they've gone there, and the people that work in the library, they're very good at even helping you on your search. So that is my goal, to actually go to that library. The other thing is through the Ancestry search, there's a Mexican American page that I connected with on Facebook, and there's an administrator of that page. He will have cousins conferences. You can do it online, you can do it actual location, and my other goal is to actually attend one of those conferences, and it helps you in your search, and it's called the Cousins Search.
Cousins Search.
Yes.
Cousins. Now, the final question for you is, what part does evangelism play in this?
For me, it's the connections you can make, family members, get to know them, and even going through the records, like I said, for us, baptismal records, church records. So connecting with them that way, and finding out the history of the beliefs of ancestors, and even just making your connections and finding out,
Very good.
what their beliefs are.
Very good. Very good. Well, this winds it up for today. We thank you all again for joining us again today for a New Covenant Community Connect Live with our special guest today, Christina Ledesma Burns. I am Elder Chris Burns, standing in for Minister Elijah Lyle. And as I don't think I'm overstepping my bounds as I say to my interviewee today, you are by far my loveliest interviewee. You all have a lovely day. Be blessed.
Thank you.